We have been bringing some messages about we've been bringing some messages concerning the number 7, and we're going over a lot of different things. Going over a lot of different things concerning the number 7 the last couple weeks there, and I wanted to continue that tonight, finish that up tonight. The next thing I think we left off last time, the 7 baptism of fire, and we gave you the verses on that. The next one that I want to go over is the 7 kinds of darkness. The 7 kinds of darkness, and this will be universal. Number 1 is universal darkness. Darkness was on the face of the deep there in Genesis 1 verse 2. And also there's literal darkness. Number 2, literal darkness. When the land of Egypt was dark there, when God was sending the plagues in Exodus 10:22 and Matthew 27:45. And then thirdly, there's bodily darkness. Paul was blinded. Of course, all he saw was total darkness in Acts 9 when he got saved there, verse 8 and 9. And I call that bodily darkness. It's also in Acts 13:11. Acts 9 verses 8 and 9 and Acts 13:11. And then there's national darkness for Israel in Micah 3:6. Micah 3:6. And then there is spiritual darkness in Matthew 6:23. And Matthew 6:23, I wanted to look at that verse for a second. Matthew 6:23. The Lord talks about your eye here, and he says in Matthew 6:23, but if thine eye be evil, thy whole body shall be full of darkness. If therefore the light that is in thee be darkness, how great is that darkness? All right, that's Matthew 6:23. So that is spiritual darkness, number 5. And then number 6, there is supernatural darkness in 1 Kings 8, verse 12. And 1 Kings 8:12, I want to read that verse also, 1 Kings 8:12. It says, Then spake Solomon, the Lord said that he would dwell in the thick darkness. That's 1 Kings 8:12. So that is supernatural darkness. And then number 7 is eternal darkness, of course, in hell. And those that go to hell, are going to burn forever. That reject Christ, they're going to burn forever. And Matthew 8, verse 12, Jesus talks about that. He says, But the children of the kingdom shall be cast into outer darkness. There shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. All right, so that'll be eternal darkness there. So that's 7 kinds of darkness. Then the next thing is there are 7 subjects of the Christian faith. If you'll look at Ephesians chapter 4, and 7 subjects of the Christian faith in Ephesians 4, verse 4. Ephesians 4, verse 4 to 6 there. It says in Ephesians 4:4, there is one body and one Spirit, even as ye are called in one hope of your calling, one Lord, one faith, one baptism, one God and Father of all, who is above all and through all and in you all. All right, so there are seven subjects of the Christian faith in Ephesians 4:4 to 6, and they are one body, Spirit, one hope, one Lord, one faith, one baptism, and one God. That's all there in Ephesians 4, verses 4 to 6. 7, 7, 7s, all through the Bible. Number 7s. Things are in 7s. That's not by accident. All right. There is, turn to Genesis 12, verses 2 and 3, and notice that there's a sevenfold blessing. A sevenfold blessing described in Genesis chapter 12. Genesis chapter 12 and verses 1 to 3 there. Genesis 12 and verse 1 to 3. A sevenfold blessing. If I can get over there. Genesis 12, verse 2. Tells Abraham to get out from his kindred, country, father's house, so forth. Genesis 12:2, and I will make of thee a great nation, number 1. Number 2, and I will bless thee. Number 3, and I'll make thy name great. Number 4, thou shalt be a blessing. There's 4 of them in verse 2. Verse 3, and I will bless them that bless thee. That's 5. And curse him that curseth thee. That's 6. And in thee shall all families of the earth be blessed. That's 7. There's 7 blessings there in Genesis 12, verse 2 and 3. And another, look at Exodus 6:6. The next book, Exodus 6:6. And you'll see this again. Sevenfold blessing. Exodus 6:6. Exodus 6:6. Wherefore say unto the children of Israel, I am the Lord. And notice these I wills. I will, I will, I will, I will. I will bring you out from under the burden of the Egyptians, number 1. And I will rid you out of their bondage, 2. And I will redeem you with a stretched out arm and with great judgments, that's 3. And I will take you to me for a people, 4. And I will be to you a God, 5. Verse 8, and I will bring you into the land, 6. And the end of verse 8 says, and I will give it you for an heritage. That's 7. See the 7 things there? So there's sevenfold blessing there for Israel in Exodus chapter 6, verses 6 to 8. I will, I will, I will. God says, I will 7 times there for Israel. All right. Then we're not going to run the references and read these. I'll just give you the references. Write them down if you want to, or you get the CD. In the Old Testament, the blood was sprinkled in 7 places. In the Old Testament, the blood was sprinkled in 7 places. Those 7 places are, number 1, the incense altar. The incense altar. And that's in Exodus 10:10. Or wait, I'm sorry, Exodus 30, verse 10. It's Exodus 30, verse 10. Exodus 30, verse 10. And then secondly is the blood was sprinkled on the brazen altar. Exodus 29:12. Exodus 29:12. Blood was sprinkled on the mercy seat. Leviticus 16:14. Leviticus 16:14. The blood was sprinkled on the people. The people in Exodus 24:8. The people in Exodus 24:8. The blood was sprinkled on the priests, number 5. That's Leviticus 8:30. Leviticus 8:30. Number 6, the blood was sprinkled on the ground. Leviticus 4:18 and 16:14. Leviticus 4:18 and Leviticus 16:14. And then number 7, the blood was sprinkled on the book. The book, Hebrews 9:19. Hebrews 9:19. All right. Look at Leviticus 19:18. Let me show you something here. I want to show you something about the second commandment that's mentioned 7 times in the Bible. We're going to find out what the second commandment is. We're going to find out what the first and second commandment are in the Bible. Leviticus 19:18. Leviticus 19:18. Thou shalt not avenge nor bear any grudge against the children of thy people, but thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. I am the Lord. Loving thy neighbor as thyself. All right, that has to do with the second commandment. Now, how do we know that? Turn to Matthew 22:35, and it shows us what the first and second commandments are. Matthew 22, verse 35. Matthew 22:35. Matthew 22:35. Then one of them, which was a lawyer, asked him a question, tempting him, and saying, verse 36, Matthew 22:36, Master, which is the great commandment in the law? Jesus said unto him, Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, with all thy soul, and with all thy mind. This is the first and great commandment. He tells you what the first great commandment is, about loving the Lord with everything you got, basically. But look what the second thing is. Verse 39. And the second is like unto it. Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. On these two commandments hang all the law and the prophets. So the first commandment is, the first and great commandment, 38, verse 39, is to love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, with all thy soul, with all thy mind. People say that's impossible. I don't believe God would tell us to do that if it was impossible.
Amen.
Now, does that mean God expects us to be perfect? No, He didn't say be perfect. We're to love God with everything we have. Do we make mistakes? Do we flub up and mess up? Yeah. But you know what? We're to love God. You know, one of the problems in most people in America and around the world, they don't really love God with all their heart. One verse there in the gospel says, here it says, with all your heart, soul, and mind. And I think another verse says, with all your strength. Yeah. Strength, there's four things included. There's a fourth thing included, with all your strength there in the Gospels. All right, we'll probably find it here. But those are the first and second commandment. All right, so the second commandment is cited 7 times in the New Testament. All right, now let me just give you the verses. We won't run all of them. Matthew 5:43. Matthew 19:19, and we just read the one here, Matthew 22:39, and Mark 12:31, Romans 13:9, Galatians 5:14, and James 2, verse 8. Those are the verses where the second great commandment is cited 7 times in the New Testament. Matthew 5:43, Matthew 19:19, Matthew 22:39, Mark 12:31, Romans 13:9, Galatians 5:14, and James 2, verse 8. All right? Now, turn to Psalms 118. Let me show you this. Psalms 118. Psalms 118, verse 22. Psalms 118, verse 22. The Bible says, The stone which the builders refused is become the headstone of the corner. That expression there, the stone which the builders refused is become the headstone of the corner, is found 7 times in the Bible. It's found, first of all, right there in Psalms 118, verse 22. Psalms 118:22. That verse appears 7 times. The first one's right there in that verse, Psalms 118:22. The next one is found, look at Matthew 21:42. Matthew 21:42, and you'll see that's the first time it's found. Jesus saith unto them, Did ye never read in the Scriptures, the stone which the builders rejected, the same is become the head of the corner. This is the Lord's doing, and it is marvelous in our eyes. There's number 1. Number 2 is Mark 12:10. Mark 12:10, and you'll see this the second time. Mark 12:10. Let me read it here. Mark 12:10. And have you not read the scripture? The stone which the builders rejected has become the head of the corner. All right, and then it's found in Luke 20:17. Luke 20, verse 17. All right, that stone which the builders rejected is Jesus Christ. Luke 20:17, and he beheld them and said, what is this then that is written? The stone which the builders rejected, the same has become the head of the corner. All right, there's the third time. And then it's found in Acts 4:11. Acts 4:11. Read it here. Acts 4:11. This is the stone which was set at naught of you builders, which has become the head of the corner. Neither is there salvation in any other, for there is none other name under heaven given among men whereby we must be saved. So he says that again. All right, Acts 4:11. And then the sixth time, it found, is in Ephesians 2:20. Ephesians 2, verse 20. Ephesians 2:20. And are built upon the foundation of the apostles and prophets, Jesus Christ himself being the chief cornerstone. There it is again. Well, I'm glad he's the chief cornerstone. Amen?
Amen.
For other foundation can no man lay than that is laid, which is Jesus Christ. 1 Corinthians 3:11 says. So he's the chief cornerstone. And then the seventh one is 1 Peter 2:7. 1 Peter 2:7. Find it here. 1 Peter 2, verse 7. Unto you therefore which believe, he is precious. Well, verse 6 says, wherefore also it is contained in the scripture, behold, I lay in Zion a chief cornerstone, elect, precious. He is precious. And he that believeth on him shall not be confounded. Unto you, verse 7, therefore which believe, he is precious. But unto them which be disobedient, the stone, here it is, which the builders disallowed, the same is made the head of the corner. So there's 7 times that verse, Psalm 118:22, is mentioned in the scriptures, including Psalm 118:22. And that's Matthew 21:42, Mark 12:10, Luke 20:17, Acts 4:11, Ephesians 2:20, and 1 Peter 2:7. Now, there are 7 instances in the New Testament where references in the book of Psalms are ascribed to David. Psalms are ascribed to David. All right? And the first one is in Matthew 22:43. Matthew 22:43, and you'll find that in Psalms 110, verse 1. And I'll read Matthew 22, verse 43. Matthew 22:43 is, the verse for that is Psalms 110, verse 1. Matthew 22:43. He saith unto them, how then doth David in spirit call him Lord, saying, the Lord said unto my Lord, sit thou on my right hand, so forth and so on. That sit thou on my right hand is found in Psalms 110, verse 1. So there's one instance there where in the New Testament, Psalms are ascribed to David. Matthew 22:43 matches Psalms 110, verse 1. Not only Matthew 22:43, but you also see Luke 20:42. Matthew 22:43 and Luke 20:42 match Psalms 110, verse 1. The next one is found in Acts 1:16-20. Acts 1:16-20. And let me read that. Acts 1, verse 16. Acts 1:16. But this is that which was spoken by the prophet. Wait a minute, Acts 1:16, men and brethren, this scripture must needs have been fulfilled, which the Holy Ghost by the mouth of David spake before concerning Judas, which was guide to them that took Jesus. For he was numbered with us and had obtained part of this ministry. Now this man purchased a field with the reward of iniquity, and falling headlong, he burst asunder in the midst, and all his bowels gushed out. And it was known unto all the dwellers at Jerusalem, insomuch as that field is called in their proper tongue Aceldama, that is to say, the field of blood. For it is written in the book of Psalms, here it is, let his habitation be desolate, and let no man dwell therein, and his bishopric let another take. That there in Acts 1:16-20 matches Psalm 69:25 and Psalms 109, verse 8. All right, it's ascribed to David. It's ascribed to the book of Psalms. Acts 1:16-20 matches Psalm 69:25 and Psalms 109, verse 8. All right? And then the third one is found in Acts 2:25-28. Acts 2:25-28. And in Acts 2:25, for David, in other words, David is mentioned several times in the New Testament. The Bible refers to David and something he wrote. We're talking about a man who committed adultery and murder. We're talking about a man. Aren't you glad God doesn't just, God looks at a man's whole life. David was a good man. He just messed up a few times, just like probably all of us have messed up a few times in our lives. And I'm glad David paid for his sin. We're not condoning his sin. But David was the only person in the Bible that God says he's a man after my own heart was David. And he took another man's wife, Uriah the Hittite's wife, Bathsheba, had him murdered. And you know the sure mercies of David spoken of in the Old Testament is the fact that God could have and should have killed David because of murder and the adultery, according to the Old Testament. But God didn't. That's why he had the sure mercies of David. Well, I thank God for the mercy of God. Amen. Amen. Acts 2:25, for David speaketh concerning him, I foresaw the Lord always before my face, for he is on my right hand, that I should not be moved. Therefore did my heart rejoice, and my tongue was glad. Moreover also my flesh shall rest in hope, because thou wilt not leave my soul in hell, neither wilt thou suffer thine Holy One to see corruption. That's a reference to Jesus Christ, prophecy of Christ there. Thou hast made known to me the ways of life, thou shalt make me full of joy with thy countenance. Men and brethren, let me freely speak unto you of the patriarch David, that he is both dead and buried, and his sepulchre is with us unto this day. All right? That there, Acts 2:25-29 there, matches Psalm 16, verses 8-11. Psalm 16, verses 8-11. All right? The next, number 4, the fourth instance in the New Testament where Psalms, something in Psalms, the book of Psalms, is ascribed to David. Number 4 is Acts 4:25 and 26. Acts 4:25 and 26. 25, who by the mouth of thy servant David has said, why did the heathen rage and the people imagine vain things? The kings of the earth stood up, and the rulers were gathered together against the Lord and against his Christ. That right there, Acts 4:25 and 26, matches Psalms 2, verses 1 and 2. Psalms 2, verses 1 and 2. Number 5. Romans 4, verses 6-8. Romans 4, verses 6-8. And we went over this in great detail in our verse-by-verse study in Romans a few years ago, whenever it was. Romans 4:6. Even as David also describeth the blessedness of the man unto whom God imputeth righteousness without works, saying, blessed are they whose iniquities are forgiven. Are your iniquities forgiven? If you're saved, they are. Amen. You're blessed. Amen. Amen. And whose sins are covered. Well, I'm glad my sins are covered. Amen. Amen. Blessed is the man to whom the Lord will not impute sin. See, when you got saved, God imputed to you his righteousness. So he no longer will impute sin as far as salvation is concerned. Now, you got to daily confess your sins to stay in fellowship with the Lord, and to, that the Lord won't take you out for the woodshed and give you a spanking, chastising. But that Romans 4, 6-8 matches Psalms 32, verses 1 and 2. It says the same thing in Psalms 32, verses 1 and 2. And Paul mentions it here in Romans 4, 6, even as David also describeth the blessedness of a man, unto whom God imputeth righteousness. God imputed to you his righteousness. When you got saved, God gave you his righteousness. He imputed you. You know what his righteousness is? You say it's getting baptized. No. You say it's joining a church. No. You say it's being good and doing good. No. His righteousness is his Son, Jesus Christ. For God hath made him, Jesus, to be sin for us who knew no sin, that we might be made the righteousness of God in him. 2 Corinthians 5:21. Romans 10:4. For Christ is the end of the law for righteousness to everyone that believeth. The only reason why any person's going to heaven, born-again Christian's going to heaven in the world, in the last 2,000 years, is because they repented of their sins and received Jesus Christ their Savior, and God imputed to them, gave them his righteousness. Because we can't get there. All of our righteousnesses are as filthy rags. Yep. Isaiah 64:6. If a person did the very best they could do all their life, they'd land them right in the lake of fire. All right, so Romans 4, verses 6-8 matches Psalms 32, verses 1 and 2. Number 6, I'll just give these to you. Romans 11, verses 9 and 10. Romans 11, verses 9 and 10 comes out of Psalm 69, verses 22 and 23. Romans 11, verses 9 and 10 comes out of Psalms 69, verses 22 and 23. And then, number 7, Hebrews 4:7 comes out of Psalms 95, verses 7 and 8. Psalms 95, verse 7 and 8. That's mentioned in Hebrews 4:7. That's 3 instances in the book of Acts, 1 in the life of Christ, and 3 in the epistles. There, total of 7 there. It's a total of 7. All right, so that's 7 there of the instances where it comes out of the Old Testament. All right, now let's go on the number 7, and there are 7 particular oak trees mentioned in the Old Testament. 7 particular oak trees mentioned in the Old Testament. We're going to run these references. Turn to Genesis 35:4. Genesis 35:4. A lot of people believe, and probably Jesus was, he died, we say a cross, but there's a tree, he's on a tree. All right? And it's probably an oak tree. Look at Genesis 35, even though the Bible won't specifically say, but it probably was an oak tree. Genesis 35 and verse 4. And they gave unto Jacob all the strange gods which were in their hand, and all their earrings which were in their ears. And Jacob hid them under the oak, which was by Shechem. So there's one reference there to the oak. There's 7 total references. 7 particular oaks in the Old Testament. Stay right there in Genesis 35. Look at verse 8. Genesis 35 and verse 8. But Deborah, Rebekah's nurse, died, and she was buried under Bethel under an oak tree. Under an oak, and the name of it was called Alon Bakuth. That's the name of the oak there. Third, look at Joshua 24:26. Joshua 24, verse 26. And here's another oak tree mentioned, Joshua 24, verse 26. And Joshua wrote these words in the book of the law of God, and took a great stone, and set it up there under an oak, that was by the sanctuary of the Lord. So there's another oak. Number 4, look at Judges 6. Joshua, Judges, number 6, for another oak tree mentioned in the Bible. Judges 6, look at verse 11. Judges 6:11, and there came an angel of the Lord and sat under an oak. The angel sitting under the oak tree there, which was in Ophrah, that pertained unto Joash the Abiezrite, and his son Gideon threshed wheat by the winepress to hide it from the Midianites. So there in Joshua, look down at verse 19. And Gideon went in and made ready a kid and unleavened cakes of an ephah of flour. The flesh he put in a basket, and he put the broth in a pot, and brought it out unto him under the oak, and presented it. So there in verse 11 and verse 19 is that oak there. That's the 4th one. The 5th one is found in 2 Samuel 18:9. 2 Samuel chapter 18. See, this is good to go through our Bible like this, run references like this. You learn your Bible, and the flesh hates it, because you're learning a little bit about the Bible, and the flesh don't like that. Look at 2 Samuel 18:9. 2 Samuel 18:9. And Absalom met the servants of David, and Absalom rode upon a mule. And the mule went under the thick boughs of a great oak. There's a great big old oak tree there. And his head caught hold of the oak, and he was taken up between the heaven and the earth, and the mule that was under him went away. Brother Lester Roloff preached a message from that verse, that exact verse, I believe, or this context here, where Absalom's killed here in this chapter, David's son, and he preached a message, the mule walked on. Yeah. The mule rode on, or walked on, or something like that. And talking about how Absalom, is paying for him rising up against his father David and all that, trying to take the kingdom and all that. That's what, and of course David there in this chapter and the next chapter, David cries. He hears about Absalom's death, and he goes, "Oh, Absalom, my son Absalom, would God I had died for thee! Oh, Absalom, my son Absalom!" It's found somewhere here in this chapter here. Let's see where it is. Verse 33. And the king was much moved and went up to the chamber over the gate and wept. The king, that's King David. And as he went thus, he said, "Oh, my son Absalom, my son Absalom." He found out he was dead. "Would God I had died for thee, oh Absalom, my son, my son." You know what David's doing? That's part of David's reaping corruption, because he sowed to his flesh. Yeah. Committing adultery with Bathsheba. Let's see. When Nathan come to David, he told him, "You're going to pay fourfold." Remember that little parable David gave him there in 2 Samuel 11 and 12 there? Probably chapter 12, 2 Samuel 12, I think. He said, pay fourfold. What fourfold was this. Number one, the baby died of the relationship between David and Bathsheba. Amnon tried to kill Tamar. These are all people. These are all kids, stepchildren, or whatever, in David's home. Amnon tried to kill Tamar, and then let's see. Amnon tried to kill. Let's see. Amnon raped Tamar. Wait. Let's see. Yeah. Amnon raped Tamar, and then Absalom killed Amnon for raping the sister. That's 3. And then Absalom is killed. Fourfold. Because of a little pleasure of the flesh for David. This here is 7 particular oaks in the Old Testament. I'll tell you what, you can't beat God with a stick. When God says, whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap. It's going to come to pass right on the button.
Yeah. Yeah.
You say, who keeps track of all that for billions of people on the earth for thousands of years? God does. What goes around comes around, or what comes around goes around, however the saying goes. It happens every time. It happens every time. That's why this morning I was trying to encourage the young people to, sow good actions and good deeds in your life as a young person. Let's see, that's 2 Samuel 18, verse 9 and verse 10 and verse 14. In that chapter, by the way. The oaks are mentioned there in 2 Samuel 18, verse 9, 10, and 14. Number 6, another oak is, we won't turn to it, but it's 1 Kings 13, verse 14. 1 Kings 13, verse 14. And number 7, another oak is found in 1 Chronicles 10, verse 12. 1 Chronicles 10, verse 12. All right, next. There are 7 angelic appearances in the life of Christ. In other words, there are 7 times in the Gospels and in the book of Acts once. Matthew, there's 4. Luke, there's 2. And Acts, there's 1. There are 7 angelic appearances in the life of Christ. All right? The angel of the Lord comes to him there in Matthew 2:13. Matthew 2, verse 13. And let me read that, because I think this is very important, of course. 7 angelic appearances in the life of Christ. Matthew 2:13. Matthew 2:13. And when they were departed, behold, the angel of the Lord appeareth to Joseph in a dream, saying, Arise and take the young child and his mother, flee into Egypt, be thou there until I bring thee word, for Herod will seek the young child to destroy him. The angel appears there in the life of Christ. Matthew 2:13. The next one's in Matthew 2:19. Appears again. Matthew 2:19. But when Herod was dead, behold, an angel of the Lord appeareth in a dream to Joseph in Egypt. That's Matthew 2:13 and verse 19. That's twice there. Matthew 4:11. When Christ was tempted. Matthew 4:11. After the Lord resisted the devil and quoted 3 quotations from the book of Deuteronomy, the Old Testament. Matthew 4:11. Then the devil leaveth him. Well, I'll tell you what, sometimes it don't seem like the devil ever leaves you, does it? He just works on you day and night sometimes. Then the devil leaveth him. There's a message in that. Got to be somewhere. Then the devil leaveth him, and behold, angels came and ministered unto him. Him is Jesus. Angels came and ministered unto him. Well, I'm glad for the ministering angels. All right? So then the devil leaveth him, and behold, angels came and ministered unto him. That's the 3rd time that there's 7 angelic appearances in the life of Christ. That Matthew 4:11, Mark 1:13 goes with that too. Matthew 4:11 and Mark 1:13 is the same thing. The 4th time is concerning the resurrection. Matthew 28, verse 2. Matthew 28, verse 2. Remember when the angels show up? Matthew 28, verse 1. Matthew 28, verse 1. In the end of the Sabbath, as it began to dawn toward the first day of the week, came Mary Magdalene and the other Mary to see the sepulchre. By the way, Easter is on April 4th. April 4th, that is, let's see, today's 14th, 21, 28, 4. 3 weeks from today. Matthew 28, verse 2. And behold, there was a great earthquake, for the angel of the Lord descended from heaven and came and rolled back the stone from the door and sat upon it. So an angel shows up there in the appearance of Christ at his resurrection. That's Matthew 28, 2 and verse 5. And also that correlates with Luke 24, verse 4 to 6. And those correlate with John 20, verse 12. That's all the resurrection. Christ resurrected there. And of course, Matthew, Luke, and John talk about that. Number 5. Another angelic appearance in the life of Christ is found in Luke 2:9. Luke 2, verse 9. The Bible says in Luke 2:9, "And lo, the angel of the Lord came upon them, and the glory of the Lord shone round about them, and they were sore afraid." That's verse 9. It's also in verse 10. "And the angel said unto them, Fear not, for behold, I bring you good tidings of great joy, which shall be to all people." And then verse 13, Luke 2:13, "And suddenly there was with the angel a multitude of the heavenly host praising God, and saying, Glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace, goodwill toward men." So there the angel, the Lord, appears in the life of Christ in Luke 2, verse 9, 10, and 13. It's also found in Luke 22:43. Luke 22, verse 43. "And there appeared an angel unto him from heaven, strengthening him." This is when he's in the garden, they're praying, Jesus. "And being in an agony, he prayed more earnestly, and his sweat was, as it were, great drops of blood falling down to the ground." You don't think the demons of hell was fighting him when he was praying there? Getting ready to die for the sins of the whole world. Give his life and shed his blood so he could pay for our sins, so we can go to heaven instead of hell. You don't think the demons of hell were fighting him? "And when he rose up from prayer and was come to his disciples, he found them sleeping for sorrow." Imagine that. Probably the greatest event that's ever going to take place in mankind, in human history. And Jesus Christ is going to die for our sins, and the disciples are asleep. You know, a lot of Christians are asleep spiritually today. Paul said 4 times for Christians to wake up. Yeah. He said, wake up. Romans 13:11, 1 Corinthians 15:34, Ephesians 5:14, and 1 Thessalonians 5, verse 5 and 6. He said 4 times in his epistles for Christians to wake up spiritually. Amen. Okay, that's Luke 22:43. And then in Acts 1:10, when he ascended back up to God the Father. When he had spoken these things, while they beheld, he was taken up, and a cloud received him out of their sight. While they looked steadfastly toward heaven as he went up, behold, two men in white apparel, they're angels, 2 men in white apparel, which also said, "You men of Galilee, why stand ye gazing up into heaven? This same Jesus which taken up from you into heaven shall so come in like manner as you see him go into heaven." Acts 1, verse 9 to 11. So the exact verse on that's Acts 1:10, where the angels show up when Christ is ascending back up to God the Father. And he said this, the angel said, "This same Jesus," not a ghost, not a spirit, Jesus himself is coming back. Amen. Amen? Yeah. All right, so there's 7 angelic appearances in the life of Christ. All right. Got a couple more of these. 3 more. We got 7 better things in Hebrews. There are 7 better things in Hebrews. All right? And I'm just going to give these to you. There's a better testament. A better testament. As a matter of fact, I got a note in this Bible. Let's see here. The key word in Hebrews is better. Hebrews is a series of contrasts between the good things of Judaism and the better things of Christ. Christ is better than the angels, Melchizedek, Moses, Joshua, Aaron, and the New Covenant is better than the Mosaic Covenant. All right? Now, there's 7 better things in Hebrews. There's a better testament, Hebrews 7:22. There's a better covenant, Hebrews 8:6. 8:6. There's a better substance in 10:34. Hebrews 10:34. Better substance. There's a better hope in 7:19. A better hope in 7:19. If in this life only we have hope in Christ, we are of all men most miserable. 1 Corinthians 15:19. Aren't you glad we've got hope beyond this life.
Amen.
That's why a lot of folks just give up. They don't have no hope. They don't see no hope. Probably got to get the gospel to them. Number 5, better sacrifices. In Hebrews 9:23, better sacrifices. A better resurrection in 11:35, Hebrews 11:35. A better resurrection. And a better country in Hebrews 11:16. A better country in Hebrews 11:16. Now, it says also that Christ is better than the angels, Hebrews 1:4. The Bible speaks of better things. We are persuaded better things of you and things that accompany salvation, though we thus speak. Hebrews 6:9. Hebrews 6:9. Better things. It talks about a better thing for us. A better thing for us in Hebrews 11:40. And then it says, speaketh better things than that of Abel. Speaketh better things than that of Abel. That's in 12:24. Hebrews 12:24. So you got better, better, better all through Hebrews. And of course, preachers have preached outlines and sermons on that for years. But I'm just giving it to you real quick here. All right. 7 better things in Hebrews. All right, we've got 7 resurrections and 7 sevens to go, and we'll be done. 7 resurrections. There are 7 resurrections mentioned in the Bible. We're not going to run the references. I'm just going to give them to you. You can look at them at your own leisure. 7 resurrections. First of all, of course, Jesus Christ's resurrection. That's obvious. Jesus Christ's resurrection. It's Matthew 28, 1-6. It's in it's in the Gospels there, all the Gospels. But Matthew 28, 1-6. Jesus Christ's resurrection. Another resurrection is some of the Old Testament saints. Some of the Old Testament saints. That's Matthew 27, verses 52 and 53. Matthew 27, verses 52 and 53. Thirdly, another resurrection is the believer's resurrection spiritually. We've been resurrected spiritually. That's Ephesians, Ephesians 2, 1-6. And He has blessed us to sit in heavenly places in Christ Jesus. You're adopted. You're in the beloved. You're seated with Christ in heavenly places right now spiritually. Now, you're not absent from the body yet, so you're not present with the Lord physically. All right, you're still in this body. All right, that's what Paul talked about in 2 Corinthians 5, verse 6-8. As long as you're in this body, you're absent from the Lord. But spiritually, you're seated with Christ in heavenly places. You've been spiritually resurrected when you got born again. That's Ephesians 2, 1-6. Then the rapture of the church, of course. The dead in Christ shall rise first, then we which are alive and remain shall be caught up together with him, the Lord, meet the Lord in the air, so shall we be with the Lord. 1 Thessalonians 4, verse 15 and 16. And it's also found in 1 Corinthians 15, verses 49-55. 1 Corinthians 15, verses 49-55. The rapture of the church. Number 5, there's Israel's resurrection at the second advent. The millennium, second advent, all that. We don't have time to go through that. We'll be here till 5 in the morning. But that's in Ezekiel 37 when God says to Ezekiel, Son of man, can these bones live? Talking about the house of Israel. And the chapter is talking about the resurrection of Israel. All right? That's what Paul talks about a lot when he's talking to Israel there. We went over that verse by first studying the book of Acts. He mentions resurrection all through there and talking about the resurrection of Israel. All right? And then number 6, tribulation saints will be resurrected. That's Revelation 11, verse 12. Revelation 11, verse 12. And Revelation 7, verse 9. Revelation 7, verse 9. And then there's resurrection of the unsaved dead who are standing at the great white throne judgment. I saw the dead, small and great, stand before God. The books were open and all that. The resurrection of the unsaved dead. Great white throne judgment found in Revelation 20, verses 11-15. Revelation 20, verse 11-15. John says, I saw a great white throne and him that sat on it, from whose face the earth and the heaven fled away, and there was found no place for them. There's found no place for them. It's implied that the unsaved are going to be suspended in midair by God. There's found no place for them. And I saw the dead, small and great, stand before God, and the books were open. And another book was opened, which is the book of life. The dead were judged out of those things. And whosoever was not found written in the book of life was cast in the lake of fire. This is the second death. Revelation 20, verse 11 to 15. All right, so that's the unsaved dead. So there's 7 resurrections. Then last of all, there's 7 sevens. There's 7 days in Genesis 2, 1 and 2. 7 days, Genesis 2, 1 and 2. There's 7 weeks. All right, the feast and the Passover and all that kind of stuff in Leviticus. Leviticus, we don't have time to go back and go through all that. We'll be here till 8 in the morning. Leviticus 23, 15, 7 weeks. Leviticus 23, 15, and that matches the day of Pentecost in Acts 2, verse 1 and 2. Pentecost is a Jewish feast day. All right? That's why Acts 2:38 is not the plan of salvation today. But therefore let all the house of Israel know assuredly. In Acts 2:36, Peter's preaching to the house of Israel. He's not preaching to you and I Gentiles today. And Paul isn't even saved in Acts 2. Peter's preaching what John the Baptist was doing. Come down here and get baptized and confess your sins in Matthew 3. The revelation of the gospel of the grace of God wasn't revealed yet. It was revealed to the Apostle Paul. Paul isn't saved until Acts 9. So you say Peter's lying? No, Peter knows. Up until then, that's all Peter knows. And there's progressive revelation, and God gradually reveals that. And to Paul tells Peter in Galatians 1 and 2, for 15 days they met together, and Peter got straightened around there and realized that the gospel of the grace of God, that you're saved by grace through faith, without baptism, without tongues, without laying on of hands, without good works, without circumcision, without anything. So Acts 2 is a Jewish feast day. All right, 7 days in Genesis 2, 1 and 2. 7 weeks in Leviticus 23, 15 and Acts 2, 1 and 2. 7 months in Leviticus 23, verse 24. Not only verse 24, but verse 27 and verse 34 in that chapter of Leviticus 23. 7 months, Leviticus 23, verse 24, 27, and 34. Number 4, there's 7 years. Exodus 21, 2. And Leviticus 25, 3. There's 7 times 7 years in Leviticus 25, verse 11 and 12. 7 times 7 years. Leviticus 25, verse 11 and 12. There's 7 millennia. 7 millennia in Isaiah 14, 7. Isaiah 14, 7. In Revelation 20, verse 1 to 6. 1,000 years, which is a millennium, millennium, 1,000 years. Millennium, the word 1,000 years, that expression is found 6 times in Revelation 20, verse 1 to 7, and through there. There's going to be a 1,000-year millennial reign by Jesus Christ. So 7 millennia, Isaiah 14, 7, and Revelation 20, 1 to 7. And then there's 7 ages. There are 7 ages. First one's Genesis 1, 1. In the beginning, God created heaven and the earth, and I've taught you. If you don't believe it, that's fine. No big deal. But there's something that happened between Genesis 1, 1 and Genesis 1, 2. Genesis 1, 1 is one age. Genesis 1, verse 2 is the second. The earth was not formed and void. Darkness on the face of the deep. And so forth. And then God, we went over that there in Genesis. So Genesis 1, 1 is one age. Genesis 1, verse 2 starts the age we live in now. Then thirdly, the antediluvian world, antediluvian, and then the present age, and then the millennium, and then the heaven and earth melt with fervent heat, 2 Peter 3:10, that's the 6th one, and then the new heavens and the new earth are number 7. So you got 7 ages, Genesis 1, 1, Genesis 1, 2, 1 verse 2, the antediluvian world, the present age, the millennium, 2 Peter 3:10, the day of the Lord will come as a thief in the night, which heaven shall pass away, the great noise, the elements shall melt with fervent heat. And then you got the new earth. That's 7 millennia there. So that wraps up our 7 Sevens series. I believe there's 5 CDs on it. Tonight will be number 4 and 5. They're 27-minute broadcast. And we put these on the air on the radio stations and so forth. So that's the number 7. All right? Are there any